Here are a couple of talks that we gave in the fall of 1985 that speak from our heart and from the truth of us. And we send them with all our love to our brothers on the West Coast. Also to Brother Ken W., to Brother Taro. We know of what you are doing, and bless you. Thank you. And the manner in which you configurate your own consciousness. We have a new brother, say, come to class. He reads Course in Miracles. The words are on the printed page. And to everyone who reads them, they convey or communicate a meaning that he has about himself. When he reads in consciousness the thought that appears, it is really initiating from his own consciousness. This is the whole basis of Course in Miracles. In a very real sense, people who study Course in Miracles are making up Course in Miracles. They also make up the authorship, the delineation of where they want to add to it, subtract from it, and configure it in their own memory patterns. Now, this is paradoxically exactly what Course in Miracles says that you do. Course in Miracles is a mind training endeavor to bring about a shift in your individual sense of reality. Period. We understand full well that when you read Course in Miracles, you are unable, obviously because you're here and have the necessity to read it, okay, to understand it. If I say to you, there are no requirements that you understand it, but only that you become it, it's very difficult for you. Inevitably, the scribes or the interpreters of Course in Miracles delineate it within their own limited framework of consciousness. They cannot do otherwise. You may take all of the so-called ecumenical ideas that are contained in Course in Miracles and prove to yourself and to perhaps the culture as a whole that there are a great many of similarities between what Course in Miracles says and what is ultimately said by all divine scripture or by all occult recognition or by all physiological or philosophical discernment. What about it? The limitation is your inability to think or conceive in a singular manner so that you would recognize that anything that you look at, you transcribe to wholeness if you are conceiving it as whole. Example, this candle is either absolutely divine, perfect, and contains the whole universe, or it is nothing. Your conception of the candle as separate from the basket is what's making you retain a sense of limitation. Somebody who says to you, I don't want to study Course in Miracles because it comes from the Christian historic vernacular. What the hell does that mean? All that means is the individual in his own consciousness has constructed outside of him an idea about what Christianity is. It has no reality because there is finally nothing historically significant about explicit occurrences. They have no unity. If I say to him, well, what do you mean by that? Obviously, what he has done is question the source. He has evolved in his own karma or consciousness a definition of what Christianity is. And obviously, he's not correct. He is in a state of judgment in limited conception. If I say to you, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I'm making a comparison between Billy Graham, Pope John II, Joan of Arc, John of the Cross, the Crusades, Judas, esoteric Christianity in regard to New Jerusalem. What about it? Where is that going to get you if you have constructed an idea about Christ or about God in your own limited state? It's impossible to do. The whole basis of Course in Miracles is to teach non-judgment. Inevitably, if you have constructed yourself in the past, you are in a state of judgment of your relationship with your own thoughts. You, as Jesus would teach it in Course, you literally sort out thoughts in your own mind and project them out from you in order to ascertain the validity based on your own misconception of yourself. If I say to you, as Jesus would teach it in Course, an idea never leaves its source, you are all ideas. What about them? How do you feel about your ideas today? As you look out around you, how do you feel about your constructs? Whose constructs in conception are they if they're not yours? This is the whole basis of Course in Miracles. If you deem something to be outside of you, that is beyond your control or was not perpetrated through a conscious thought or conception of yours, you are doomed to defend yourself from it, or to interpret it, or to consider it to be separate from you. And of course it's not. The definition provided in all esoteric conglomerations of the awakening process teach non-judgment. We'll teach the Beatitudes. We'll teach the Sermon on the Mount. We'll teach the first 15 lessons of what? Of the workbook of Course in Miracles. The Master, Awakened Consciousness, Da Free John, teaches Course in Miracles. Of course. There would be no possibility of you coming into an awakening posture in your own consciousness and not teach what I am saying to you. But remember, the process of coming to that is a process of expanding your state of consciousness, or a literal transformative occurrence. And this is what's denied religiously and scientifically in the limited state. Here, listen to what, I'm going to read you just one thing. This is in Da John's new book, The Dawn Horseman Testimony, or whatever it is. It's an ancient definition of what finally, or one of the definitions, of what an awakened Christ or an avatar or a master, okay, or an enlightened consciousness is. Very simply, a vira, a realized adept, a divine man, okay, By affirming the essential worth of the forbidden, he causes the forbidden to lose its power to pollute, to degrade, and to bind. That is an exact definition of forgiveness. He does not give the power of his own projections dominion over himself. He doesn't judge it. The process of coming to non-judgment is a transformative occurrence. If I sit here in front of you and through Course in Miracles and look at you and say, you are a divine, living Son of God, and in consciousness, the only living Son of God, or the only manifestation of consciousness in the entire universe, and perfect unto yourself, you cannot accept that from me. Yet I assure you that it's true. You are not the sum of the ideas about yourself, because the ideas about yourself are not true. Remember that you make history to conform to your own limitations. The history of man is not objective. It is subjective, because history is only man's ideas about himself and is rewritten constantly. To give a sense of objective validity to history doesn't really make any sense. All you're doing is verifying your own limited state of consciousness through the perpetration of an apparent memory or apparent past. Course in Miracles, the process of transformation, teaches you to become indiscriminate in the manner in which you think. Is this a process? You bet your boots. You bet your boots. What you read, what you have read up till this moment in Course in Miracles, and the manner in which you will read Course in Miracles tonight will be entirely different. Remember that because of the nature of the consciousness that perpetrated Course in Miracles, the insinuation of the energy, the whole of Course in Miracles is contained in a great many individual aphorisms in the book. If you want to spend a whole evening thinking about one sentence in Course in Miracles, rather than trying to assemble it in your own limitation, okay, consider a single sentence. Communication must be unlimited in order to have meaning. You understand what I said? There's no communication going on Earth. Moment by moment together, we can have a moment of total communication, as we did just as that moment. We shared a common purpose. Think about that. Once more. Communication must be unlimited in order to have meaning. Limited communication is always denial of love, because love may best be defined, okay, as unlimited communication. If I decide to dissect you in my consciousness or give you attributes or qualities in any regard in my limited conception of you, I have condemned you, okay, through my inability to realize my own wholeness. Holy mackerel, how simple can that get? That's exactly what that sentence says, okay? Beauty. Judgment is not an attribute of God. That's all you got to know to wake up. Isn't that incredible what I just said? Judgment is not an attribute of God. You go, oh, wait a minute. He judges whether I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or this is coming or that's going, or it's big or round or fat. No. What would truth judge? Untruth? How? How? How would there be untruth? Look at it. You take that sentence, think about that for the rest of the day. That'll wake you right up. Why? You've got a total non-judgmental God. But what does he require of you? Confirmation to his thought. What is his thought? Your thought in truth? How did you conceive of God without making him real? By what method are you espousing to the possibility of a truth or a unity and subsequently denying it? Of course, God doesn't judge. In this particular section of the galaxy, a master computer was dropped off about 6,500 years ago that expresses in total the unity and singleness of purpose of the universe. As the maturation of the species, known as Homo sapien, of man, matures, the energy flow directs from this computer, which is totally unequivocating and uncompromising, to the inevitable occurrence of the transformation. Okay? That's another way to express it. Express it any way you want. There are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. Now you've got a bad problem. Now you've got a bad problem. You really think that in privacy you can think about something that's not known to the entire universe. You can't. Why? You are the entire universe. There is no thought outside of you. If you are constructing in your own consciousness this, and I assure you that you are, all right, how do you subtract some ideas or thoughts that you have from others? You can't do it. It's not possible. How simple it becomes for you, if you want to look at it that way, as Jesus would say to you, you are the Savior of the earth and the only Son of God. Why would that be true reasonably? Because you have constructed the earth in your consciousness. It has no reality except that you have defined it as real. I'm letting you escape from it. Don't you see what I've given you? The power to what? To revision, to reform, to re-recognize, to transform. It's not outside of you, it's you. I've given you what? Freedom. You want to take it? Or you want to keep pretending that there's something that is going to affect you, neglecting to remember that you are the cause of this. This is the whole basis of what I know to be true. How simple it becomes, how very provincial for you to acknowledge your own Christship, if you are willing to assume responsibility for your own thought constructions. Inevitably, you deny a portion of you. Why? Because you're in a limited state of consciousness. It's impossible for you to order your thoughts or conceive of a yesterday or a tomorrow or a possible action without eventually feeling guilty about it. You cannot do it because you're in a state of rejection of something. You are making decisions as though somehow you can bring about an effect. You can't. You can't. All effect has already been perpetrated and is perpetrated by your individual thought at the moment you think it. How the heck are you going to teach this? The basis, finally, of your dilemma in spiritual search is your inability to see that there could never be, finally, such a thing as potential. There is no such thing in consciousness or in the universe or in truth that is not now active but can be activated in the future. That's a strange notion. It appears to be that way, and obviously I'm teaching you in Course in Miracles that it's possible for you to activate your own karma potential. But I assure you that all the history of the schism is contained in a single flash, and that you continue to reconstruct it in your own mind. All right. So if you choose to do that, you're in a constant state of denial of your own thoughts. This is in Course in Miracles. The idea that the earth is here except in your memory is absurd. Obviously, the schism is your memory of it. You're dreaming. This is your dream. You fell asleep, remember? You fell asleep. Everything that has been constructed in the total state of consciousness is nothing but your own configuration in your dream. You have forgotten that you are the cause of this. How can this be taught to you? How can I teach an illusion? You can't. But I can show you that if I read to you a particular sentence, okay, that you can look at it, and as your frame of reference matures through your individual transformation, physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, you will what? See in your apparent limited thought a wholeness or a structure of wholeness. Let's try another one. Some of these are very, very difficult. You must choose between total freedom and total bondage, for there are no alternatives but these. Which is a simple way of saying you're either bound totally in here forever, or you're in heaven. You're free. There's no compromise. There's nothing in between. What a lovely thought. I like that. It is true, just as you fear, that to acknowledge him is to deny all that you think you know, but what you think you know was never true. All of you, individually, in your own consciousness, must come to know that the earth is not real. There is and must be a way that this can come about. But it's up to you. The experiences and the change of mind that are going on in you and in the group of Full Endeavor are extraordinary. You are being made new on a moment-by-moment basis. It's a very lovely experience. Is it a process of subtracting the limited self? Of course. Is it a process of stilling the body-brain? Yes. Transformative occurrence is not talking about the transformative occurrence. You cannot literally have an experience. You can only be an experience. My goodness. Definitions of experience, whether ecstatic or fearful, have no validity at all because they communicate nothing. They only communicate a limited idea or a separate objective observation of the occurrence. And always involve judgment. It's a strange notion that Brother Sharon presented to Brother Glorious yesterday when she said, isn't it true that there are some real good addictions along with bad addictions? As though somehow the whole dilemma of being on earth is that obviously the discernment that some addictions would be better than others, when fundamentally the addiction to self or the self-consciousness or the judgment that there are degrees of an addiction are what hold you in bondage. The assertion of the self. It's a lovely notion. But I assure you, for everyone that you can find that will define one addiction as being bad and another good, I can present you with somebody who has what? Defined the most incredible addiction that you could conceive of and reject as being simply divine. Do you see? It's obviously true. I knew a man that had the divine addiction of molesting 3-year-olds. Is that more or less divine than somebody who serves to purpose, who helps the poor? Nothing. It has nothing at all to do with that. Okay? The expression of the selfness in regard to the addiction or the satisfaction derived from it is always limited. Who knows that better than an alcoholic addicted to a pint of gin for breakfast? To say that he doesn't feel divine when he drinks is absurd. Of course he feels divine. Does that make it a divine addiction? I suppose. How do you define bondage? Does that apparently free him? Okay. Does taking another special consciousness in bondage until death do you part a kind of freedom? How do you define that? It is silly. No. Limitedness always binds. Obviously, limitation could not occur without fear. Self-sustenance, okay, is always, and this is lesson 76 in the Course in Miracles workbook, okay, is always the denial that you are under no laws but God's. You obviously have established an idea of the value of nutrition, of the value of maintaining an equilibrium in your state of consciousness. You do it, and that's why you're here. If you open up the book right now and read out loud to me lesson 76, you immediately go into a state of denial of it. It's inevitable. You are constituted on a denial of it. If you value it, you will not escape the consequences of it. Wow. Cause and effect. Of course there's no action without subsequent action. Of course there's no thought without subsequent thought. The only way, finally, listen to me, to eliminate cause and effect is what? As we would teach it in Course in Miracles, to see that cause is effect. There is absolutely, in reality, no distance between cause and effect. That's why the Father's the Son. can't have a thought that hasn't occurred. You may attempt to effectuate it later on, all right? But the whole basis of what I teach you is to shorten your conceptual distance between what you think you do and the results that are forthcoming. I'm shortening your time, brother. You think there's a time between now and when you die. There isn't. You have conceived of death, you can only die now. If you do that, you'll see your eternal. If you put it off, you'll construct a future based on your false path. It's inevitable. Can I shorten time for you? As Brother Jesus would say, we can shorten it immeasurably, which is the same thing as saying you can come into your now, and only now, and transcend to eternity. Eternity is not a long time, brother. It's no time at all. What a weird idea. People say, who wants to be in eternity if it's like this? It has nothing to do with it. You are fulfilled at this moment, and you never will be. There is nothing outside of truth. Truth is true, and nothing else is true. There are no degrees of truism. Truth is not relative. No wonder you're in pain and fear. No wonder. You think there's justice in limitation. You search for it. You eye for an eye it. You set up quid pro quos. I'll give you this, you give me that back. All based on limitation. There isn't any such thing as that. You are everything or you're nothing. How many times have I taught this? How many times I keep saying? I've been saying this for 10,000 years. You stood on the mount 2,000 years ago and told me this, brother. You said to me, don't resist evil. All right. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the peacemakers. Wow. Blessed are those who hunger and serve after righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted in my name. How many times? Your kingdom is not of this world. Know ye not you must be born again. Wow. Again and again and again. And finally, what? I come into your sleeping state, into your dead state, and I tell you there is no death, that you are eternal in your own consciousness. Period. What am I making you look at? You can't escape from yourself. I'm causing you, in your own consciousness, to go into a state of acceptance of yourself. You could never come to God by denial of yourself or your brother, who is you. Period. Denial is always hate. Acceptance and forgiveness is always love. The incredible discovery you can only give to yourself is the biggest step that you could ever take in so-called conception. It's your absolute recognition that you are the creator of this. And that all creation finally is the giving of the certainty of your consciousness. If it is not refined, you will project it. If it is true, you will extend it, because an idea in truth never leaves its source. That's how simple it is. Over and over again, we say to you, you are the universe. There is only one state of consciousness. It is you. There is nothing outside of you. This is the highest level at which any attempt at bringing about a transformation can be presented to you. And that's the occurrence that's going on. But it's always up to you. You cannot lay or foster the blame or give the responsibility to your own projections, because you have already limited them by the definition of yourself. Group consciousness will never find God. Group consciousness is false by definition. All consciousness is singular. We may get together in groups and attempt through therapy to bring about transformative occurrences. This is an extremely high reach in so-called psychology or transpersonal psychology. But finally, each consciousness in his own configuration reaches the inevitable truth of himself, and not through commiseration, okay, through recognition. Everybody hear me? The total in reality is never shared. It is total only in you individually. Wow. What do we teach if it's not subjectivity, finally? Imagine that. That's a very fearful concept for you, brother. It's very difficult. You keep wanting to give honor and value to your own limitation. And you'll do it by constructing family. You'll do it by constructing self-defensive mechanisms. You'll do anything you can to keep from going through the process that will show you that you are in fact eternal and all conscious. I come to tell you that it's inevitable. Okay. And it will come about in you. And each moment that you make the choice to turn to it, you turn away from the falsity of your own projections. How simple. Full commitment brings immediate result. So does infinite patience. Full commitment and infinite patience are the same thing. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Lo, I am with you always. Well, I thought you said you went to prepare away from me. The consciousness of the universe is here or it's nowhere. Incredible tendency to come here and then carry something different out with you. It is only you. That's what you're coming to know.